Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, folks, I am taking you to the magical place that is Kingston upon Hull, if you can believe that, because there, a monster was prowling. It's not the best reason, sorry Kingston upon Hull. See, this lad had kind of been up to no good for a while, like in the worst possible way. You know, one of those trench coat type fellas. But then, it's an escalator that just kept on going up, because in 2019, a philosophy student at the University of Hull was just trying to go home. He would say he had a problem controlling his urges, you know what I mean? I would say if you got those kind of urges, you're the problem. Please subscribe to see new true crime videos every week. Now, let's give it a go. So, Kingston upon Hull, or just Hull, it's a hell of a place. It sits in the northeast of England, and it's home to several major museums, galleries, monuments, all that kind of stuff, if that's the kind of stuff you be into. It's an artistic city, a city of poets, musicians, festivals, and usually with that, or that is because of, there's a university there too. The University of Hull? Pretty good school, and you know, the city 250,000 people call it home. The crime rate in Hull? Not great, not terrible. Most recently, it's been ranked as the 17th most dangerous place in all of England and Wales, with the most affected areas being the city centre. Downtown Hull, and wouldn't you just love it? But we're not exactly going to downtown Hull, we're going like just a bit north of there, to a bar/nightclub called The Welly. It's just a wee bit north of city centre in a fairly residential area. Called The Welly because it's on Wellington Lane, the more you know. It's a good spot, lots of bands playing there, banging out a few tunes, though the reviews are kinda mid to good mid. A whopping £6 for a beer? In this economy? Getting gouged, lads. The reason I'm talking about The Welly is that in 2019, there was a woman going there. Or attempting to. In 2019, Libby Squire was 21 years of age. Originally, she was from Buckinghamshire in the very southwest of England, but she had moved up north to pursue her degree in philosophy at the University of Hull. The intelligent, fun-loving Libby had moved from her home village of West Wycombe in the September of 2017, leaving behind a younger brother and 2 younger sisters she absolutely doted upon, along with her parents, Lisa and Russell, with whom she was also extremely close. They would text each other every single day, especially her mother. Those two were extra close, like every second of the day, you know, texting each other. Just a great relationship. Libby was loving the uni life in Hull. She was hitting the books, she was hitting the clubs, and life was just treating her well. Fair play to you. She had her friends. They had recently moved in together to a house along Wellesley Ave, a safe little place you can enjoy. It was on January 31st that this case begins. It was just, you know, as second semester was about to begin. Libby, she had just spent the Christmas holiday period with her family down south and just drive back up north. And you know what I mean here? Listen, you haven't seen your friends in about a month. What's the first thing you do? Pub. Boo. Classes were due to begin imminently, as in the next day, but you know what? You just gotta get a few scoops in, lad. It's important to get the scoops in. Always. Libby and her friends, they met up, they were shooting the shit, they were having a few sups, and then, you know, they went to a pub, and then after that, you know where they went? Guess where? You don't need to guess, I'm gonna tell you. They went to The Welly. Or they were going to The Welly. There for some pub drinks, bit of music, bit of dancing, bit of fun. Libby and her friends were heading there when the bouncer wouldn't let Libby in. Said she was too drunk. Not tonight, pal. Now her friends would say yes, she was drunk, but like not bad. Not really that bad. Like they've seen her like this before and it's kind of normal. She was intoxicated, yes. Hammered, messy, no. But still, you know, listen, it's your first night back, you can take it easy, you know, slow your roll. Bouncer wasn't having it though. And so it was wet, it was cold, there was snow on the ground, Libby was going to call it a night. Class in the morning anyways. So Libby's friends, they stuck her in a taxi, and this is, you know, totally normal, right? Take a taxi home, before everybody else, get to bed with you. They didn't think twice about it that one of them was leaving early, you know, in a cab. A little bit later, one of Libby's close friends texted her to make sure she got home okay. But Libby didn't respond. Then, just to be sure, maybe she passed out, that's why she didn't respond, the friend texted another housemate. Did you hear Libby come in the door? She hadn't. Her friends then, fair play to them, they did not waste any time at all. It was like about an hour after that, still in the middle of the night, they called the police to report Libby missing. They were getting worried.
How can I help? Right, so my friend, we put her in taxi to get home, and then now she's gone missing.
Right. Why do you think she's gone missing?
One of our friends was in the house, and she's not got back home.
Right, okay. What's your friend's name?
Libby.
By the morning, Libby still hadn't come home, and that's when the police began the search proper at first light. Friday, February 1st. Initially, she'll turn up. She probably crashed with friends. It's a student town. This probably happens all the time. She'll show up, a little bit worse for wear, maybe a little bit of a hangover, but she'll be grand. If she did, I wouldn't be telling you this story. Libby was a hard-working student, and she had class, which she missed. An immediate red flag for studious Libby. Police raised the risk level immediately. She wouldn't have missed this, therefore something was preventing her from attending. Something not good. Police started searching everywhere, starting at her home on that house on Wellesley Avenue. Last they'd seen, she'd been put in a taxi going home, so they started there. Had she gotten a taxi? Had she even made it that far, though? Had something happened along the way? Her friends had definitely put her in one. What's the little part between A and B? Was there any CCTV which showed her route home? As word spread around town, some students who in fact lived near where Libby did, Wellesley Avenue, said they believed that they did see her the night after the taxi. This was at about 11:40 p.m. She was on the street and she was crying. They offered to help her, but she wasn't having it and walked away. They said she seemed extremely upset, bawling her eyes out, about something. What's the something? I don't know. It was from that tip which led the police to more CCTV. CCTV of who they believed was Libby walking down the road. She was stumbling, swaying, she falls. She was not okay. And where was she going? Now, Libby had struggled with some mental health difficulties growing up, depression, that kind of thing, that resurfaced now. The CCTV footage kind of just sort of ended. She wasn't really seen on much after.
3 days since Libby Squire was last seen, and forensic officers from Humberside Police have spent today at the place where she was last spotted. They collected items of interest as their investigation into the missing 21-year-old student continues. Police say they're extremely concerned for her welfare. Libby Squire's family say her disappearance is very out of character and they are broken without her. Libby got into a taxi outside the Welly Club in Beverley Road at 11 p.m. on Thursday. Police believe she got out near her home in Wellesley Avenue, just a few minutes up the road. But she was then spotted on CCTV 45 minutes later here, at the junction with Hayworth Street. A male driver reportedly saw her sitting on a bench and got out to ask if she was okay. She said she was and he drove away. What happened next remains a mystery.
First day, the first 24 hours passed with absolutely that many clues about what happened to Libby. And that many is zero. The police did quickly enough actually find that the taxi driver. Sat him down, he yapped away with him, got a statement, and he's like, yeah, I dropped her home. I did, I dropped her outside her house on Wellesley Avenue. During the drive home, she seemed like maybe she was a little bit upset. But yeah, she got out. He went on his merry way. He dropped out at that house. So why had she walked away from it? For some reason, Libby hadn't gone in and walked back the way she'd came. Maybe she was determined to give that bouncer a piece of her mind. But where'd she actually gone? Because she didn't make it there either. Now, they were kind of sort of able to narrow down a likely route she would have taken. Not by where she was seen. And there's CCTV kind of a lot of places. It's pretty common in the town of Hull. They were able to narrow down where she'd gone, not by where she was seen, but by where she wasn't seen. If she wasn't seen on CCTV here or here, she must have taken the route where there was no CCTV. And so, along one particular road, they found a homeowner's CCTV. And they saw a car pull up. The car is only partially visible, but it was on the road she most likely would have been on, as she wasn't seen on the CCTV of the other roads. The police were using the process of elimination to determine where she had gone. So a car pulls up, and maybe the driver must have seen something, or maybe done something, but this was at the time she must have taken this route. The driver pulls the car in, gets out, walks down the road, then, after a few minutes, goes back to the car and just sits in it with the door open, like he was waiting for someone. He then gets up again and began walking towards the road Libby was last seen on. It seemed like he was walking after her, and at one point, running after her. Watching this footage, you get the same feeling of like a shark circling its prey. And then, the footage is too grainy to really make out anything. They start walking together towards his car, they get in it, and they disappear.
This is the road where she was last seen very late last Thursday. But footage obtained by ITV News appears to show suspicious activity on this connecting side street.
Whilst the investigation is being treated as a missing person inquiry, we remain open-minded as to the circumstances surrounding Libby's disappearance. We have had specialist teams, including detectives, carrying out numerous inquiries, actions and following up leads since the report of Libby's disappearance during the early hours of Friday the 1st of February. Over the last 4 days, we have carried out extensive land and house searches in the area where Libby was last seen in an attempt to find her or find information as to where she may be.
If she's somewhere now, like you're watching this, what would you say to her?
Please come home. We know we love you. All the support. There's over 200 people in there for you. Please come home soon.
Then another report will come in. Some people who live near a place called Oak Road playing fields, big fields, surprisingly, they said that at around 12:15 a.m. they heard screaming coming from those fields. And those fields are from where she was last seen on CCTV to her house on the opposite side. They initially thought the screaming was foxes, in fact, if you can believe that. Now seeing the news of a missing woman, they weren't so sure. A local CCTV in that area also showed what first appeared to be nothing. Then, police noticed headlights in a few of the frames. See, once again, it's like how they tracked down where Libby must have gone. This street had no council, like local government CCTV. It had no security cameras because this road was a dead end. Again, with like where Libby had been walking, this car that Libby had gotten into wasn't seen on any other CCTV, so therefore it must have gone down the one that didn't have CCTV. The one that led to Oak Road playing fields. Neighbourhood CCTV seemed to confirm it. Local cameras showed the car coming out from that road 8 minutes later. But as I said, unfortunately, as there was no CCTV down that road, they couldn't exactly tell what had happened. Weirdly enough, hours later the car was seen going back there. The police followed the car as it drove across town for hours. And eventually, once again, they had a good idea of where this person lived, the driver lived. Not because of where the car was seen parking, but by where it wasn't. Via the process of elimination, they thought they knew this guy's home street. Keeping an eye on all cameras in the area, they eventually got an image. Was he the person who had been driving the car that night?
Libby Squire has been missing for 8 days. In woodland near to her home, the search goes on, as it has done every day. But still, there's no sign of the missing 21-year-old.
The time of the screams, the CCTV, the driving all around, the police began to feel like they had a good idea of the exact timeline of what had happened. Just 2 problems. 1, no real idea of where this guy lived. And 2, where was Libby? A search of the park turned up nothing. However, the river hull ran through the park. It's possible she was placed in the river and washed away. So, was there a predator in town? Yeah. In fact, shockingly, there was. There have been a few reports going back weeks and months of, one of them sick bastards going around town. A number of calls have been made like this.
What's the emergency? My housemate lives on the bottom floor. Her light was on and she turned it off to get into bed, and she's caught a man looking in. So she's gone out to see what he wanted, and he ran off.
Or this.
Police, what's your emergency?
I think there's a peeping Tom outside my house. I think he's gone now, but he was just staring at me. I heard the rustling outside and I looked at the window and then I saw him. He just stared at me for a good couple of seconds.
Young female students walking home one night had seen a guy standing in the corner of the street, beaten off. He chased them, and then when they ran in, he lock and busted on the door. This sick bastard also looking in the window. Burglaries, where sex toys and underwear were stolen. The latest report on this mysterious wanker had been on February 1st, hours after Libby had last been seen.
The CCTV shows the date, the 1st of February, and the time just seconds after midnight. A person is seen on the opposite side of the car and opens the front passenger door. It's difficult to see what happens, but it appears someone or something is put inside. Seconds later, the man reappears on this side of the car, gets into the driver's seat, puts the headlights on and reverses before driving off at around 8 minutes after midnight.
So, having a fair idea of the street this guy lived on, again via the process of elimination, police walked down it, found his house via his car. That's where they found Pawel Relowicz and his wife and 2 kids. Perfectly normal family. He was taken in. Pawel was originally from Poland. He'd been living in the UK for about 7 years by 2019, and he was 24 years of age. He was from a small village in central Poland and now was working in Hull as a butcher, married with 2 small kids, the younger only a few months old. His wife never had any concerns about him. Maybe he was one of them odd ones. Nope, not at all. Friends and colleagues would say he was good. Yeah, he was great. He all got on really well. He wasn't like one of those weirdo loner types. He did work as a butcher at a meat factory, which people said he didn't really seem, it was kind of odd he had that as a job. Because he just didn't seem like the kind of butchery type. But hey, we do know he loved to beat meat. Had never been in trouble before.
Okay, Pawel, if you could give me your full name, please.
Proszę podać swoje pełne imię i nazwisko.
Pawel Relowicz.
When questioned, Pawel's story was this.
So my next question is very simple. Are you responsible for kidnapping Libby Squire?
Czy jest pan odpowiedzialny za porwanie Libby Squire?
Nie.
No.
Explain to me any involvement or knowledge you have about the disappearance of Libby Squire.
Ja mogę powiedzieć wszystko tak, jak było od początku.
I can only tell you how things happened from the beginning.
Zostawiłem sobie samochód na tej ulicy, gdzie tam mówiłem wtedy.
I parked my car on that street, Hayworth, I think.
He said he had gone for one of them good old jogs in the middle of the night and bumped into Libby as she was running. Randomly. He said she was bawling her eyes out and she asked him to drive her home. And Pawel, just being a really swell guy, he's like, I got you. So they got in his car and he was going to drive her home, but during this drive, which must have been 2 minutes, he said she started dry heaving. He said, get the hell out of my car. He kicked her out. He went to check if she was okay. She said she was fine. She walked off. He never saw her again. End of story. Just trying to be a good guy over here. So why did he have these little small scratches on his face then? When asked, his wife said they weren't there before. Now he had told his wife he had gotten them from working on his car. He told the police something else.
Ja noszę okulary cały czas, nie?
I wear glasses all the time, you know? Okay.
I ja noszę tak, z synem to się zawsze wygłupiam, nie?
And with my son I would always
Zawsze
play
mi okulary tam gdzieś rzuci, czy coś.
foolish games and he would always throw my glasses somewhere.
Seizing his car, they found in the trunk a bag filled with sex toys, underwear and photos of women. Searching his home, they found a drone. He had been using it to scope out more victims of his burglarizing, peeping Tom wankin' ways. He also would have known the park where it's believed Libby would have been taken pretty well. Pawel was quickly determined to be the mysterious wanker of Hull. DNA found at the scene matched him, so they quickly nailed him as a sexual predator. Along with women's underwear found hidden in his home. But beyond that, and more importantly what happened to Libby, they didn't know. The other offences though led to him being kept in custody. He was charged with those peeping Tom crimes and the rest, but not with Libby's fate. In fact, 7 weeks would pass before anything would be really found at all. It was on March 20th that a fisherman in the Humber estuary made a discovery. It was human remains. It was Libby. It did appear that she had been dumped in the river after being killed, and her body had washed out almost to the North Sea. However, the remains were so badly decomposed, it was identified as Libby, but what had happened, cause of death, it was unable to be determined. It was a huge relief to her family, her friends, and the community that she had finally been found. She'd come home.
They say this is a hugely distressing time for her family and a very difficult time for all those who've been involved in the investigation over the last 7 weeks. At the place where she was last seen tonight, people have already begun to pay their respects. Police say their priority now is getting answers for Libby's family that they so desperately need.
But now the wheels of justice have to start cranking up, and Pawel was very used to cranking. The case against him for the various offences I'm talking, the voyeurism, the burglaries, the peeping Tom, all of that was going to go ahead. And the police were building that up and building it up and very determined to nail him on all of those predatory, sick bastard crimes, essentially. See, that was especially important because although they had no evidence he had murdered Libby, those crimes could show what kind of guy he was. It's called bad character evidence, that if enough evidence can be built up and proven of what kind of person this is, it can be admissible in a trial regarding a separate issue. Facing 13 charges, he did plead guilty to some, saying he couldn't control his urges, yada yada yada, I'm a victim of my own body, what can I say? He got 8 years, and appeal reduced it to 5. Must have been a hell of an appeal. Now, a lot of this could be used for the Libby case, and his DNA was in fact found on Libby's remains. And so it's, all of this, the DNA, the escalation, the CCTV, her body ending up in the river. Well, hey, prosecution putting all that together, you got a fire going.
I must say that you are under arrest for the murder, rape of Libby Squire in Hull on Friday the 1st of February 2019.
Muszę pana poinformować, że zostaje pan oskarżony w tej chwili za zabójstwo i zgwałcenie Libby Squire dnia 1 lutego 2019 roku w Hull. It's impossible.
To jest niemożliwe. Ja nic nie zrobiłem, to jest 100%.
What I mean is, I haven't done anything. This is 100% sure. I would have never killed a human being.
He was charged with the rape and murder of Libby Squire. His trial took place in January 2021, and it lasted over a month. Pawel denied the charges, claiming to have been a good Samaritan, just tried to drive her home, nothing more. And they did have sex that night, but it was consensual. The prosecution said he preyed on her. He was found guilty on all charges, and he was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 27 years.
Her killer was Pawel Relowicz, who'd been preying on students near the University of Hull for 18 months. His offending was so brazen, the police were able to find him on CCTV performing a sex act in the road.
But despite committing at least 9 offences in a small area, the students he was targeting were never warned someone was prowling these streets.
He can be seen stalking Libby, who was drunk, in distress and probably hypothermic. Within minutes, she was in his car.
In prison, he sent his wife a letter. A very, sweet stuff. Now, this might shock you, but his wife ditched his ass pretty soon after he was arrested. But he sent one of them, just want you back, babe, type letters. In the letter, he never mentioned Libby. He just begs her to take him back, saying, guess what? Prison kinda sucks. He asks her if she still loves him. He's a pretty optimistic guy. And finally, he asks her for 70 whole pounds so he can buy a TV. He gotta watch his programs. Here's a quote. I want you to be strong. Love the children and love me. I will return to you. I promise you this. Which, after what he did, sounds like a threat. If he's waiting for a response for this, he'll be waiting a while. And so ends the story of Libby Squire, an incredibly scary and tragic one, an amazing woman, young woman whose life was ended by a predator, a shark who swam the streets of Hull. Always, going just a little bit further. If it wasn't Libby, it would have been something else. And in fact, during the trial, there was plenty of CCTV evidence of showing him driving around town before the murder of Libby, showing him driving around town, looking for, young women who were walking home alone. There's one footage where there's a woman walking home alone and his car's driving up beside her, and as soon as she gets off the road where he can't get to her, he just stops the car, just goes off. He was preying on women for a while before he got Libby. I guess it shows the importance of, just nipping things in the bud, but unfortunately the police were unable to identify him for all of the various crimes he'd been doing to terrorize people in the city. Police weren't able to identify him then, but now we can most certainly identify him as a monster and a real piece of shit. Thank you so much for watching. It really means the world to me, as always. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Please check out the That Chapter podcast, which has a new episode out every single Monday. And other than that, you know, Patreon, early access to videos and exclusive videos and all the rest. But you know what? Next video will be up in a couple of days. So you want to give it a go? Do that. But yeah. Alright. Take care of each other and yourselves, cause guess what? I love you. Mike out.